Alright, so today we're going to be talking about the S-Class heroes and the difference in power that they have in the manga versus the webcomic. And this video was made possible by my awesome patron, Flashy Flash. Thank you so much for your support, my friend, and I hope this is good enough for what you wanted. Now, everything kind of stays the same in both iterations of the story from the beginning up until the point that Garo fights Tank Top Master. After that point, things begin to drastically change in the manga and greatly expand upon the story, also giving much more feats to the S-Class heroes than what they have in the webcomic. Now, also, we're only going to be comparing webcomic and manga stuff, so that means I'm not going to go into spoiler territory for this video, so don't worry about that. Puri Prisoner. So in the webcomic, after he loses to Deep Sea King, he basically just goes on to lose to Garo, and then that's pretty much all that we get of him. So in the manga, all of the stuff that happens in between that is new and supplements to his character, meaning that when he defeats Free Hugger, when he defeats that fodder demon monster that is allegedly as strong as Deep Sea King, at least according to Murata, as well as him defeating Vacuuma and his mixed results against Neon and him defeating the Smelly Lid prisoners as well. That is all new stuff, meaning that also the power-ups that he gets is like the implied training or just growth that he had after his encounter with Deep Sea King, his bristle armor, and his vibration abilities. That is all new stuff. So Puri Prisoner has greatly benefited from the manga's adaptation of the webcomic, and I think he's gone from like a demon to probably like a certified dragon right now. Tank Top Master, unfortunately this guy doesn't get any growth in the webcomic or the manga, meaning that after he loses to Garo, which basically plays out the same way as it does in both versions of the story, he just doesn't really do anything else. I mean, even in the bonus chapters that we get of him, like when we see him try to foil Dr. Pufoy's plans of reconstructing the Hero Association, that really doesn't do him any favors either. So he's pretty much around the same level of power in both iterations of the story. I really hope that this guy does get expanded upon in the future, but whenever that happens, it's honestly up in the air. Metal Bat. So in the webcomic, the only real feats that he has is when he's going against Melzergard and all of the stuff that he does in that fight, and aside from that, he's never really touched on again, meaning that in the manga, when we see him take out those two demons in Senior Centipede and Raffleseedon, as well as the Tigers before that, and his awesome performance against Elder Centipede, which is kind of underrated in my opinion, as well as his fight against Garo, that is all new stuff in the manga, meaning that Metal Bat has also benefited from the adaptation, and he's probably went from, I don't know, he was really ambiguous of his power in the webcomic, so I guess maybe he was considered like a demon, and now he's like, you know, like a full-blown dragon with seemingly limitless power, allegedly. GENOS. So his continuity in the webcomic is pretty interesting because he does fight G4 and does get the upgrades from him and then fights Sonic, but then he goes on to fight Garo still in his G4 form, which obviously doesn't play out in the manga. We see EC GENOS take him on. And he still gets the compliment from Garo about how he's very fast and just as strong as Tank Top Master. But he also goes on to lose his arm. It's implied by Royal Ripper at that point. So everything that happens with GENOS, like him fighting those demons in the invasion, you know, during the martial arts tournament, as well as him taking on Elder Centipede, and recently with his whole Daedric upgrades and him taking out the true form of G5, that's all new stuff. So GENOS also kind of, you know, had some favors from the manga, and I would say that he was probably like a demon for sure in the webcomic as well, and now, I mean, judging from the implications of his Daedric power, I guess he's a dragon as well. Flashy Flash. So this guy doesn't really have much feats in the webcomic, you know, at least up to currently what the manga story has reached. In fact, like all of the stuff that we see him do against Hellfire and Gale doesn't happen because he originally fights the Hot Rod brothers, which is like the webcomic equivalent of them. They're just like two like robot dudes, and he easily decapitates them. There's no full-blown long drawn-out fight in epic fashion the way that we see in chapters 95 and 96. And then after that, he does encounter Saitama, which really shows his speed, but it kind of plays out the same with, you know, Saitama easily evading him and catching his blade, and then all of that minecart stuff is new to the manga. So Flashy Flash, up until this point, I don't know, was maybe like a dragon still, considering that he was able to take out those two seemingly demons pretty easily. Watchdog Man. So Watchdog Man just has no feats in the webcomic. He's hardly ever in it. So like when we see him go against Garo in the manga and in the anime, that's pretty much all we got on him. So I guess he's a demon in the webcomic, considering we don't know anything about him. So the manga, I guess, really represents that he's very likely to be Dragon. SUPERALLOY DARKSHINE. So in the webcomic, he only really has one defining feat so far, at least as far as the manga has reached in the story, and that is when he one-shots Bug God. It was impressive then, and it's still impressive now. And then other things that the manga supplements is like when we see him clap that parasite monster, as well as like shaking that train car around like a baseball bat, and just like running through those monsters and making them explode, and like touching them and making them explode. Very impressive stuff, with further shows that he's like super powerful, which I think the manga does a way better job of representing. Now, he does fight Garo, but we have yet to see that play out in the manga, so I can't really touch on it right now. But I would say that he was probably a dragon in the webcomic, and he's definitely a dragon now. Pig God. So he doesn't really do much in the webcomic. I mean, he does eat the Great Food Tub, who is a much different character in the webcomic. He's kind of just like this regular dude that kind of looks pig-like, I suppose, but in the manga, he's like that giant bearded dragon type monster. And then he goes on to fight Gums, who he, doesn't have a really good time against in the webcomic either. So it's, still showing that he's still pretty powerful, that he can tussle with a cadre. And then the things that really supplement his power in the manga, I guess, is when he eats Eyesight, who is, like a demon. So I would say Pig God probably kind of stays the same. He's probably like a low dragon in both versions. Drive Knight. So this guy like has no development in the webcomic whatsoever. I think the only time we actually ever see him is when he talks to GENOS and tells him that Drive Knight is his enemy. That's it. So that means like when we see him take out those fodder monsters back in season 2, when he reveals that he has his horse form, that's all new stuff. And of course that means like when he shows up and takes out Neon, shows all of his ultra powerful transformations and everything that he's capable of, that is of course new and much needed development on him. So, it's unknown how powerful he was in the webcomic, but for sure right now he's like Dragon towards the higher end of that spectrum. Zombie Man. So he more or less has the same feats in both the webcomic and the manga, mainly when he goes against Pure Blood and Homeless Emperor, except his fight against Pure Blood is greatly expanded upon and done so much better, obviously, in the manga, as well as just all of chapter 101 when we see him take care of all those fodders beforehand. That's all new stuff. It just gets us to see more of him and more of his arsenal, like those huge, crazy, powerful bullets that he uses against Pure Blood. That's new stuff. His swords are new stuff. We only really saw him with an axe beforehand. And then when he goes against Homeless Emperor, his regeneration, as well as when he's going against Pure Blood, his regeneration is sped up. Like, it's not necessarily that fast in the webcomic. Like, at least it wasn't implied to be as fast as it is. So that really buffed up Zombie Man in a much needed way. And he was probably like demon level, somewhere around there in the webcomic. But I think he's like a full-blown dragon right now. King. We see enough of King in the webcomic to really get the gist of what's going on with him. But he's not really as nuanced as he is in the manga, I'll say, and he is kind of lacking some feats in the webcomic, like when he goes against that mimic monster in chapter 109. That's new stuff, much needed. But aside from that, we have still yet to see the best of King, which will for sure happen, but I think he's definitely like God in both iterations of the story. Metal Knight. We haven't really seen much of him in either versions of the story, honestly. Like in the webcomic, he takes on the meteor and fails against that. And then aside from that, we kind of just hear about him making the New Hero Association. So that means like when he goes against Elder Centipede and the other stuff, like with his arsenal, we don't really see that in the webcomic. So it kind of gives him more feats, but still keeps him at this ambiguous level of power, as which I always say with Metal Knight, we only can really go off of the hype for him. So I guess in both versions, he's more or less could be like High Demon based on just one of his Metal Knight robots, but if we're just guessing his full potential, he could be like above Dragon. Child Emperor. So we don't really get to see too much of him in the webcomic. Like when we see him go against Eyesight, and that's like the first time we really get to see like the gadgets that he's using, that's a good way to introduce us to his abilities, which doesn't happen in the webcomic. But then after that, he goes on to fight Phoenix Man, and in the webcomic, Phoenix Man only has like his bird brain costume form. He doesn't transform into the crazy dragon and the regeneration regeneration, resurrection abilities that we've seen. That's all new stuff, and that mainly happens so that we can get more feats on Child Emperor, because like I said, that doesn't happen. So Child Emperor is one of the biggest buffs that we see coming over from the webcomic, because before this he kind of just, you know, hacks up Phoenix Man and then loses to Evil Natural Water, as he does in the manga as well. But the whole Brave Giant stuff and all of the cool new added tricks and robots and gadgets and stuff that he has, that's all new manga stuff. So I would say that he's probably like a demon in the webcomic, and he's going full-blown dragon in the manga. And when he has like Brave Giant, he's like mid, you know, maybe even high dragon around there. Atomic Samurai, so he doesn't really have much to do in the webcomic. He kind of takes on Melzergard and then goes on to lose to Black S, but in the manga we see him take care of Haragiri, which is awesome. That doesn't happen. And then we see him take on like those demons throughout the story, like when he takes on Rhino Wrestler, totally wrecks him, takes on Devil Executioner, who's like a fodder demon. And then when we see him like use his concentrated atomic slash against Black S, that is not in the webcomic, so that greatly amplifies his power in a much needed way. It shows that he can take care of dudes like that, but he just doesn't necessarily have enough to really compete with like overwhelming strength that Black S has. So I would say that he's probably like, I don't know, like a dragon possibly in the webcomic, but now he's more so a definitive dragon now that his feats and more of his powers have been explained better. Silverfang, so he has good feats in both the webcomic and the manga, like when he goes against Melzergard and when he goes against Garo. Those are in both versions and they both do him justice, but like the whole Elder Centipede fight, that's new to the manga, so that really expands upon him. But also like his fight against Fistfight Jin, that's new to the manga. And his fight against Overgrown Rover when he's helped by Bomb, of course, this is in both versions, except the manga makes it look much better. Because in the webcomic, he kind of just does the Crossfang Dragon Slayer fist to him, and then it kind of hurts Rover, but at the same time it kind of doesn't. Then he asks him to sit, and then he does. But in the manga, we see like he gets supplemented by Fubuki's new ability, and he's able to deflect Rover's blasts, and then like the big beating that they put on him and then kick him at the end and send him into the wall, that's new to the manga as well. So I think the manga really does him justice, and he was probably a dragon in the webcomic, but now he's more so like, I don't know, almost consensus high dragon. Tatsumaki, so she has awesome feats in both versions as well, like when she's able to deflect the bullets back at Boros' ship. It happens in both versions, but the manga really makes it out to be the incredible feat that it is, you know, better than the webcomic does by far. And also when we see her take on Thousand Eyes Octopus, that's new to the manga as well. And when she takes on Giro Giro, the feats that Giro Giro uses on her, like the Force Lightning stuff and the 300 times gravity, that's not in the webcomic, so that just further shows how outrageously powerful Tatsumaki is, which, like I said, I think the manga does a much better version of showing us. And then finally, Blast. So up until this point in both the webcomic and the manga, he doesn't really have any shown feats, except in the manga we do get told how powerful he could be, but in the webcomic that doesn't really happen. Like the whole thing about him defeating Elder Centipede, as well as Drive Knight asking about him and like being scared of him, that doesn't happen as well. The only thing that really gets said about Blast in the webcomic that does get in the manga is when Sitch is talking about how he deserves special treatment and how if humanity is truly in danger, then he'll probably come out and try to save it. That's about it. And given that, I think, you know, Blast is probably like the strongest hero in both versions, you know, aside from Saitama, of course. That's pretty much it for the video today, guys. I hope you liked this one. Let me know what you think about the differences in the comments. And also, I want to thank, once again, my awesome patron, Flashy Flash. Thank you, my friend, and I do hope that this is what you wanted. Also, if you guys liked the video, just please give it a like. And check out the Patreon. And also, if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.